At the outdoor patio of the Riverstone Grill, I tapped my manicured nails against the stem of a champagne flute and watched my husband, Gavin, settle the tab with the waiter. The sun was slipping behind the grain silos across the water, turning everything amber. I tugged the hem of my silk-wrapped dress and smirked. "You know I am only with you for your money, right?" I said it loud enough that the couple at the next table coughed into their martinis. I laughed because Gavin had just told me he loved me, and I needed to remind him that love was negotiable. Gavin froze, the black leather folio still open in his hand. His shoulders went rigid under the navy blazer I had picked for him that morning. He looked at me as though I had turned into smoke. Then he closed the folio with a soft snap and said, "Noted." He walked away from the table without waiting for me, past the string lights and the live jazz trio, past the host stand where the manager greeted him by name. I stayed on the patio, scrolling through Instagram, assuming he would circle back to the car once he cooled off. 10 minutes later, I found the Tesla gone from the lot. I rolled my eyes and called an Uber. The next afternoon, standing at the pump of the Quick Mart off Highway 12, I reached for the Platinum AMX to fill the Range Rover and the card declined. I tried the Sapphire Visa, same electronic beep of refusal. I checked the banking app. Every single account had been locked. 0 available. The wind carried diesel fumes and the smell of hot asphalt straight into my throat. He did not answer my calls. I texted Gavin, "This is childish." No bubbles, no reply. I had to Venmo a girlfriend for $20 of gas like a college kid. My cheeks burned under the fluorescent canopy lights. I drove home to the loft above the old printing press downtown. Gavin had moved his shoes, his watch box, the framed photograph from our Santorini trip. The closet looked vandalized. On the quartz island sat a single sheet of heavy stock paper. "I am done funding disrespect," it read. "Lawyer will be in touch." I crumpled the note and tossed it toward the trash can, missing. My first thought was that he would come back once he missed me. He always did. I spent the evening on the balcony with a bottle of Sansera, scrolling through pictures of us in Capri, telling myself he was overreacting. 3 days later, I showed up at his office in the converted brick warehouse on 3rd and Alder. The receptionist, a freckled girl named Jonna, stepped in front of the elevator. "He is not available," she said, arms crossed. I laughed. I am his wife. She did not budge. He left instructions. I tried calling his mother, thinking she would scold him into sense. Instead, she said, "You finally pushed too far, Harper," and hung up. I posted a selfie with the caption "single and thriving," even though the divorce papers had not yet arrived. Likes poured in, but the comments from our mutual friends felt colder. "Tough break," wrote the guy who used to golf with Gavin every Saturday. "Maybe next time appreciate what you have," wrote someone whose wedding we had funded. The following weekend, I drove to the marina where Gavin kept the sailboat we had bought together. I wore the yellow sundress he loved, the one he once peeled off me under the stars. He was on deck coiling a rope, skin sun-browned, jaw clenched. I stepped onto the dock. "Can we talk like adults?" I asked. He looked up. "You want to talk now?" His voice was flat. "Tell me, Harper, what part of 'I am only with you for your money' deserves adult conversation?" I felt heat crawl up my neck. It was a joke. "You always brag about being able to take a joke. Not that one." He turned back to the rope. "Leave the keys to the Rover on the console. I am having it collected tomorrow." I tried a softer tone. "I miss you." The words tasted like chalk. He met my eyes. I miss the man I thought I was married to. Turns out he was just an ATM you upgraded. The boat engine coughed to life. I stood on the pier while he eased away from the slip, sail flapping like a door slamming shut. That night I went to the rooftop bar of the Astor Hotel, the one where the bouncers knew my name. My girlfriends fluttered around me, refilling my glass, telling me I was better off. But I caught them checking their phones, glancing toward the door. When the bartender asked how I would pay for the second bottle of Veuve, I realized Gavin had closed the card I kept behind the counter. I paid with the last of my emergency cash, bills sticky with spilled gin. I drove to the house we had rented in the hills last summer, the one with the infinity pool. I thought maybe he would be there, lonely, needing me. The gate code had been changed. I sat in the gravel turnaround until security lights blazed on and a voice through the intercom said, "Mom, this is private property." Weeks slipped by. The lawyer sent certified envelopes. I signed where the yellow tabs indicated, expecting at any moment Gavin would call it off. He did not. I watched Instagram stories of him at regattas, at charity galas, always standing next to people who smiled easily. He looked lighter, like a man who had shrugged off a heavy coat. One Thursday, I walked the river trail alone, past the dog park where we used to bring our neighbor's spaniel. I saw Gavin in the distance, laughing with a woman in hiking boots. She handed him a water bottle. He tilted his head back, throat golden in the sun, and drank. I stepped behind a cottonwood before he could see me. My chest felt suddenly hollow, like someone had scooped out everything vital. That night I sent a long text. I see now how cruel I was. I am sorry. I love you. Please let me come home. The message stayed undelivered, never read. I started therapy, mostly because the court required it for the settlement negotiations. The therapist asked what I missed about Gavin. I said the way he used to warm my feet between his hands when I got into bed. I said the way he looked at me across crowded rooms as though I were the only moving thing in a painting. Saying it out loud felt like chewing glass. The divorce finalized on a rainy morning in a beige courthouse annex. Gavin wore a charcoal suit I had never seen. He signed papers without looking at me. After the judge declared us legally strangers, he stood and offered his hand. I took it. His palm was warm, calloused from rope and oars. He let go first. Outside under the portico, I said, I never meant to hurt you. He opened a black umbrella. I know, he said. That was the worst part. Then he walked down the courthouse steps, water splashing around his polished shoes, and disappeared into the gray. I stood there until the rain soaked through my blazer. My phone buzzed. The bank notification said the final support payment had been deposited. I looked at the amount: generous, exact, final. I closed the app and stared at the parking lot, at the empty space where his car had been. The rain tasted like copper on my tongue. I walked to the bus stop because I had sold the Rover. The plastic shelter smelled of wet newspaper and diesel. I sat on the bench, clutching the divorce decree like a parking ticket I could not afford to pay.